NativeScript-Vue-org, just go into the docs, and here you can just go into the installation. If you don't want to go through an installation, you can always go through the playground where you can develop your application using the online IDE. So let us use playground for this stream, and I will also show a sample using Visual Studio Code. So once I selected the editor with Vue as my template, the playground comes with a default application structure. So if you see, there will be an app folder, and inside the app folder you have got the app.css, and there is an app.js folder, and there is a components folder which has a component called helloworld.vue. So if we want to just run this sample, what we can do is, like, you can just click on this QR code. It will display a QR code, and we can basically use our mobile. So let me try to use my mobile. So I am scanning the QR code. And I can see the application in my mobile device. If it is not visible, I will try to show it in future streams with a proper one. But I think so far, if you are able to see it, that is cool. If not, we will try to use Visual Studio Code and use a local simulator to test the same application. So if you want to use playground, you have to use or you have to install two apps. One is called NativeScript Playground, and another is called NativeScript Preview. So you can see here, whenever the application was running in my mobile phone, I could see the logs. So here it says that Vue config is currently set to true, so that it is able to write the logs. But if you don't want logs, you can always go into the app.js, and here if you see, vue.config.silent is equal to false. You can just uncomment this so that you won't find these device logs in the output while you are doing development. This would help in a great way to avoid logging internal steps which are happening while the application is getting compiled. So if I go to this helloworld.vue file, if you are a basic Vue.js developer, you might know the syntax of a Vue component. So NativeScript supports single file component. So single file in the sense, you will have a template, you will have a script, and you will have the style, all as part of the single component. So when you use style as scoped, it means that this particular style is applicable only to this particular page or screen. So that way you know that whatever styles you have on this particular component or vue.vue file is applicable only to this particular screen. So if you are building a NativeScript Vue mobile application, it is similar to a web, where web also has the same template section and web also has the same script section and style section. The only thing which is going to differ between a web-based Vue.js application and NativeScript Vue application is that in mobile, you are basically going to use NativeScript controls, or these are all native controls. In web, you will basically have the same section with a div and all the HTML related controls. So that's the only difference between Vue.js web application and using Vue.js in NativeScript. You basically need to change only the controls. When you're developing the component for mobile, you will use NativeScript controls. When you're developing the component for web, you will use HTML controls. That is the major difference how the page gets structured. So in this sample, you can see that there is a component called helloworld.view, and what this sample does is like under app.js, which is the main entry point, currently it is just rendering a frame and it returns hello world component. So this is actually a old format. I think this template has come from the old one. But if you are using new structure, then you can always, as shown here, you can always use this particular syntax. So the key difference between a Vue.js mobile and Vue.js web is, in a web you use import view from Vue, whereas in NativeScript you will use import view from NativeScript Vue. In web, we render a Vue instance by mounting it to the app element which has an ID called app, and then we are rendering the entire application on this particular div tag, right? In mobile, you can basically render the frame and it goes to the app. You can either use this way or you can write it this way. So what happens is, like, when this particular app is started, it is going to basically tell NativeScript that it has to load helloworld.view as the first component. So far, I think you are able to get what is the basic difference between how a Vue.js web application is structured and how a NativeScript mobile application is structured. So with that understanding, we will try to develop a sample app using Visual Studio Code, and we will see how it goes today. So I'll go ahead and open Visual Studio Code. So let us create a folder. So if you are a Vue CLI fan, you can always use Vue CLI commands to create a NativeScript application. So we'll just go to the docs of NativeScript Vue. So this documentation site provides all the up-to-date information on what is the current version of NativeScript Vue which is released, and if you are using various Vue related plugins, how you can use those, and how you can use NativeScript plugins. So the documentation is easily understandable to get started. So if you are starting with NativeScript Vue, I would suggest to go through this particular site, and it provides a very good understanding about what are all the different controls which are available, which you can use within NativeScript Vue mobile application. You can always go and check the samples which are available in the marketplace, as we covered in yesterday's stream. But if you want to get started with your own, you can always go through this particular documentation, or you can go to Playground, and here if you go under get started, there is an interactive tutorial. So let us go into the getting started interactive tutorial. So here it provides you all the instructions step by step. There are around 12 lessons which you can complete as part of this interactive tutorial, so that you will get complete understanding of how you can develop an application. So let us go here. So since I am familiar with Playground, I'm not going to go through this. We'll just go into the basic app design. So these are all the lessons which are currently available. So I'll just say start this tutorial. So as I told, Playground, it is a browser based environment. So if you want to use Playground, you can use this interactive tutorial here and go through all the steps. There are around 29 steps which you can basically complete to have a basic understanding of how NativeScript Vue is working. So let us go into Vue CLI command. So we will use this particular command. So now that I have run the Vue CLI, it is currently downloading the template, and so you cannot use caps as part of your project name. Everything has to be lowercase, and you can give a project description, you can give an application name. I'm just going with the default ones. So I'm just going to use JavaScript, and we are going to select the option as simple. So for this sample, we are not going to cover Vuex, so I'm going to tell no. And if you want to use Vue DevTools to debug, you can use that. I'm not going to use it, so I'm going to say no, and I'm going to select the color scheme as blue. So it has currently generated a project for us based on our selections. So let's just navigate. So I'm going to use Visual Studio Code. So this is my basic app. So using the NativeScript CLI command or Vue CLI command, we are basically able to create an app. And this app currently has these folders. One is an app resources folder, another is an assets folder, and the components folder. And there is a main.js, and you also have the package.json. Here it just has the name of the project and what is the version of this particular application. And here we have the description and all other IDs of this particular app, and what is the current version. As I told, I am using 6.0 version. I am yet to upgrade to 6.1. And we are using NativeScript Vue version of 2.4.0, and based on our selections, it has currently installed all these dev dependencies. So as I told earlier, here is the app.vue component. So it is just scaffolded with the same thing which we saw in or in a similar format which we saw in the playground. So in playground, if you see, it was, since this is from a old template, it uses frame. Whereas with the latest Vue CLI, if I go into main.js, I could see it uses the new view. So this is a basic change between older version of NativeScript Vue and the latest version. So what here main.js serves as the main root file. So whenever you start this particular application, NativeScript will come into here and it will see, okay, create a new view instance, and it basically renders the app component. So here we have basically importing the app component from components. So let's go ahead and build this particular project. So to build, you can use DNS build and the platform which you want to use. So in my case, I'm going to develop this application for Android. So I'm just mentioning DNS build Android. So usually the first time build takes some time. Once it builds the application, you will be able to uh, run the application using DNS run commands. With 6.0 and above, you no need to mention the command parameter called bundle. In previous versions, we had to mention the bundle flag, whereas in 6.0 and above, bundle flag and HMR are used by default. So HMR is nothing but hot module reload. It will be used whenever you are running your application. So with hot module reload, basically what you get is like you will be able to see the changes as and when you are doing changes to your application on the emulator. So while this project is building, it is basically installing all my NativeScript dependencies. So this will take some time. while it is building, I wanted to show something in the playground. So if you are familiar with Vue.js, if you want to use any properties within your application, you'll be defining all the properties as part of the data method or data section. So playground will be uh, a nice option if you want to just get started and to get a feel of what is NativeScript. And once you get a feel, you can always go and install native CLIs and NativeScript CLI and Vue CLI and use Visual Studio Code to develop your application. So now that it is currently building my sample. So the key difference between NativeScript Vue and an application developed with Vue.js is in Vue.js we can use Vue router, whereas in NativeScript Vue we cannot use Vue router. Since Vue router is unsupported currently in NativeScript Vue, we can use something called manual routing. So in manual routing, let's say you want to navigate between two screens. You have a home screen and you have a detail screen. So if you want to navigate between those two screens, you will just use like navigate to, and you basically provide the component name. And if there are any props which you need to send, you can use the options field to send the props and other settings. So this is a small sample over here. So what they're doing is like they have a template, and inside the template there is a button and it has a tap event. So the tap event is similar to on click from a HTML control. So whenever I click this button, it is going to call navigate to with the corresponding detail page. So navigate to is basically you can use this to navigate between different screens. Or you can basically go ahead and use this pattern where you can write different methods. Let's say I want this particular method goes to the detail page, and you can write another to go to the home page. So then you can specify the particular component whenever that particular button is clicked. As I told, you can use the options to send the properties or other objects which you want to send to this particular uh, component. So if you want to have any transitions, you can send them as part of the options. So there are various other supported features available. You can basically get all the feel once you go through this particular manual routing. So now that my application is currently building, it has built like 50%. So initially, whenever you are building for the first time, it would take some time, but later subsequent builds will be faster. So if you are having any doubts, you can always reach out to me. either through Twitter, or you can always reach out to me in my Twitter channel, and we can always try to sort out our questions. So feel free to chat if you are available in the stream. So I could see that this application is currently built 70%. So since I am using a Windows machine, I can develop only for an Android application. If you are developing for iOS, you have to use a Mac-based system to develop for iOS. So in Windows, I have all my basic Android related stuff installed. So I have got my Android Studio. Um, so the docs does not prefer you to install Android Studio, but I would prefer to install Android Studio because it would help me, like whenever if I want to get latest updates from Android, I can directly go to Android Studio, and I can also manage different images of the emulators using Android Studio. So getting updates from Android would be easier if you are having Android Studio, but it is not a prerequisite. I feel that has helped me for in my learning process. So I always have Android Studio to get the latest updates. So we are 98%. It's building. 99. I think it is going to complete now. So once it is built, we can use the run command, and we try to run the application. So it has successfully built. So what if you see this particular component, what it is having is, it is having a page, and as part of the page there is an action bar. So think the action bar like a title of a web application, and we have a grid layout, and as part of the grid layout there is a label with a property called text. So what we have is, for this particular data binded property, we are binding it to message. So if you see under the script section, under data, we are returning the value for message, and under the style, we are applying the message related styles, like what is the font size and all those stuff. So I'm going to run it now. DNS run Android. So basically it is going to prepare this particular project, and it will try to run this application in the emulator which is installed. So you can see like it is telling like I'm searching for devices. So it found a default emulator which is currently available in my machine. So it has started emulator. So while the emulator gets booted, you can see that it is waiting for the emulator to get booted, and once it is up, it will try to install the application which is in this particular folder to the emulator. So once the emulator is on, you can see like it states like it is preparing the project. So as I told, in new versions, you don't need to use the bundle flag. The Webpack is the default build. Webpack is used by default in the build process now. So they all are incorporated by default. So since I'm currently using Streamlabs and streaming in this machine, it is currently taking some time to move my changes. But if you are having but if I'm directly developing the mobile application without any other streaming, it will be very fast. So the Webpack has currently generated the assets, and it is basically trying to move it to the emulator. So they are successfully installed on the emulator, and now you can see that it is basically going to invoke the application just got installed. So you can see we got the hello world. So in app.view, we are basically telling return hello world. So if I go ahead and change this now, hello world streaming, you can see that the change is applied. So the moment I save this, you can find the change here. So what is happening is in the background, it has initiated HMR, and without reloading the entire app, it is basically just getting the updated changes for you. So if you are prior to HMR, if you were using older versions of NativeScript, you might be knowing with each change, the app used to get reloaded or the app used to get started freshly. But with HMR, the app does not reload and it still maintains the same page or the same screen, and you can just see the latest changes. So far today we have seen like what is a Vue CLI command which you can use to create a NativeScript Vue application using Vue CLI, and how to build the application using TNS build, and how to run the application using TNS run. So these are the three commands which you will basically use when you are getting started. So now let's go ahead and add another component. I will stop this. So I'm closing my emulator and I'm killing this process. So let's go ahead and add another component. Let us give it a name, about. So now I have the About Us page and I have a different screen. So if you want to navigate to About Us from app, so what we will do here is like we'll basically change this to we will add a button. So So basically what we are doing is like we try to add a method, and this method we define internal method called go to about, and this go to about is binded to this tab event. So when you click this button, it basically goes and call this about method and navigates to the about component. So let's see if this change is working or not. So let's go ahead and run this. So while it is getting built, our changes are correct, we should see a label and we should see a button with this particular um, bindings. So once it finds the emulator and once it installs the application, we will be able to see the updated screen. So as I told, @tab is similar to click event of a HTML button. The device is initialized. So it is preparing the project with the updated changes, and once it is prepared, basically it is going to apply those changes. So in the background, it is basically building the new files, and you can see. There are some warnings, so let us go ahead and fix those. So basically, it was not able to find the correct. Cool. So let me change the tag layout. So now we have this change. So when I click the about, I have done something here. Basically, I have not defined this properly. Go to the document. Okay. So let me check this. I think the method is not getting wired properly. So I was basically using a parenthesis here. That's what causing the issue. So basically here we are exporting both data as well as we have to use this syntax called methods colon. And within that method, we are basically creating different methods which we need. So the same, we can go here and as part of script section, let us implement a method here. So we basically need to import it. So I'm importing the app and we will try to do the grid layout here. Cool. So now here and we can basically mention so using a grid layout is always you need to design your screen accordingly. So here let me just reduce this. Let's go to the about. So we are able to see go back between about screen and app screen. Pardon with the styling. So in this scenario, it is always easier to use stack layout. So grid layout is kind of we need to know exactly like which is the column position and row position. But my idea was to just show like how you can use the how you can add a method, and how you can route between two different screens. So we are able to route between the app screen and about screen. So today I think we can call it a day. Maybe in our next stream, we will try to include some additional functionalities to this app, and we will try to use Vuex and other concepts and see how it goes. Thank you for watching, and thank you for joining the stream. Have a nice weekend. Thank you.